Millionaire CEO married a fake bride for PR, but her honesty turned his world upside down. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The night sky over Manhattan was veiled in soft rain, the kind that blurred the city lights into watercolor. On the balcony of a high-rise office tower, Ethan Cole stood alone, his tailored suit damp at the shoulders, his jaw set like stone. The youngest media CEO in the country, a man known for control, for image, for never letting anyone see him falter. But tonight, that perfect image was cracked. Behind him, the glass doors slid open. A hesitant voice called, "Mr. Cole?" He turned. Standing there, clutching her worn leather bag to her chest, was Maya Brooks, an event planner whose company had just gone bankrupt. Her mother lay in the hospital with bills piling up. She had come here for a one-time PR gig, not expecting her life to change. Ethan's voice was calm, precise, like he was negotiating a merger. "Miss Brooks, I have an offer. I need a wife." Maya blinked, thinking she misheard. "Excuse me?" He stepped closer, rain glinting off his cufflinks. "Our company's image took a hit. The tabloids will not stop until they get blood. I need a marriage that looks real. Public appearances, charity events, interviews. You will be compensated well. It will last 6 months. Strictly professional." The words hung in the cold air, absurd and heavy. Maya almost laughed, but his expression did not change. He was serious. "Why me?" she asked quietly. "Because you are unknown," he said. "Ordinary, honest. The world believes people like you. And that is exactly what I need right now." For a moment, the only sound was the rain tapping against the railing. Her throat tightened. She thought of her mother's medical bills, the eviction notice on her apartment door. She had run out of miracles weeks ago. So I would be a fake bride? "A contract partner," Ethan corrected, his tone clipped. "No emotions, no intimacy, just appearances. You will have everything you need." Maya looked at him, the perfect posture, the perfect face, the man who seemed carved out of glass. "And what do you get out of this?" His eyes flickered with something unreadable. Redemption, or at least the illusion of it. In a nod of God, he opened a slim folder on the table beside him. Inside, the contract gleamed beneath the soft light. Her name was already printed on the top line. "Read it. Sign it if you agree. My driver will take you home. You will move into the penthouse tomorrow morning." Maya's hands trembled as she touched the pen. She wanted to say no. She wanted to walk away. But the image of her mother lying in that hospital bed would not leave her. She signed. The ink spread like a quiet promise across the page. Ethan watched her for a long moment, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a silver ring, simple, elegant, deliberately plain. He slipped it onto her finger. "This is for the cameras," he said softly. Lightning flashed behind them, casting both of their faces in sharp relief, the billionaire who did not believe in love, and the woman who had just sold 6 months of her life to save someone she loved. Neither of them knew it yet, but that signature would rewrite both of their worlds. The next morning, the city glimmered under pale sunlight, but for Maya Brooks, the world felt unreal. She stood in front of the glass tower that bore Ethan Cole's name, her reflection tiny against the steel and sky. In her hand was a single suitcase, everything she owned. The security guard greeted her by name, already briefed on the new Mrs. Cole. "In Palaglu Asel in a better policy." Inside, the air smelled of polished marble and quiet money. A housekeeper guided her through the penthouse, a world built for someone who never had to think about prices or struggle. Every detail was precise, controlled, symmetrical, just like him. "Mr. Cole is in the study," the housekeeper said. "He will brief you on the schedule." When Maya stepped inside, Ethan was on the phone, voice low but sharp. His presence filled the room. The moment he ended the call, he turned to her. "Good morning, Mrs. Cole," he said, without warmth but not unkindly. She straightened her shoulders. "You do not have to call me that. It feels strange." "Get used to it," he replied. "We have a public appearance tomorrow night, a charity dinner. The press will be there." He handed her a printed itinerary. Every hour was planned: dress fittings, etiquette coaching, photo sessions. She skimmed the list and almost laughed. "I am not a movie star," she said softly. "No," Ethan replied. "But for the next 6 months, you will have to act like one." The rest of the day blurred into motion. Designers came and went, measuring fabrics and snapping photos. A stylist pinned her hair up, while another painted soft colors on her nails. Maya tried to keep up, but each layer of makeup felt like another mask. When she caught her reflection in the mirror, polished, perfect, unrecognizable, her chest tightened. She had become the image Ethan wanted: someone elegant, quiet, harmless. That evening, he appeared at the doorway, his tie loosened after another round of interviews. He studied her for a long moment, then said simply, "You clean up well." Maya gave a small smile. "You mean I look the part?" He hesitated. "Exactly." There was a pause, the kind that felt heavier than silence. She looked at him, searching for something human beneath the CEO armor. "Why me, Ethan?" "Really? There are hundreds of women who would have signed this faster than I did." "It is I nod." He looked out the window, the city lights flickering on below. "Because you do not lie easily, I can tell." She did not know what to say to that. When he left the room, she sat by the window. The city spread beneath her like a galaxy. In her lap was the small silver ring he had given her, still glinting faintly under the light. Her mother's hospital bracelet rested beside it, a quiet reminder of why she was here. Later that night, Maya slipped off the heels, her feet aching from hours of standing. In the quiet of the penthouse, she could hear the faint hum of the elevator, the city's heartbeat below. Somewhere behind another door, Ethan was still awake, working, chasing control he could never truly keep. For the first time, she wondered if the man who owned everything might be just as lonely as she was. The following afternoon, the penthouse was filled with the quiet rustle of papers and the low hum of conversation. Ethan Cole sat at the long marble table, a sleek fountain pen in hand, his expression as calm and unreadable as ever. Across from him, Maya Brooks waited, her palms resting on the folder marked "Confidential Agreement." He glanced up. "Let us review the terms one last time," he said. His tone carried no emotion, just precision. "You will accompany me to 5 major public events. You will stay in this residence, attend interviews as required, and maintain the image of a devoted spouse. You will not discuss our arrangement with anyone." Maya nodded. "And in return, my mother's medical expenses will be covered in full, and I will receive the stipend listed on page 3. "Correct," Ethan replied. "There is one more thing." He looked directly at her. "No emotional involvement, no personal questions. This is business, nothing more." She felt a small twist in her stomach at the coldness of it. "I understand," she said quietly. He pushed the pen toward her. "Then sign it. In 7 Aprive, 5C now." Her hand hesitated over the line for a moment before the tip of the pen touched paper. The sound of ink scratching against the page was soft, but it sealed their strange alliance more tightly than any vow. Ethan took the document, flipped to the final page, and added his signature with a single smooth stroke. Then he closed the folder and leaned back. "Congratulations," he said, voice flat. "You are officially Mrs. Cole." The words did not sound like a celebration. They sounded like the closing of a door. That evening, a driver took them downtown to a private rehearsal for the upcoming charity gala. Cameras flashed the moment they arrived. Ethan placed a steady hand at the small of her back and leaned in slightly. "Smile," he whispered. "They are watching." Maya forced her lips into a practiced curve, every flash of light feeling like a test. She could feel the curious stares, the murmurs. "She is too plain for him." Another PR stunt. Inside the ballroom, chandeliers glittered above a sea of tuxedos and designer gowns. Maya followed Ethan through the crowd, her heart racing. When a journalist called out a question, "Mr. Cole, how did you two meet?" Ethan did not miss a beat. "At a charity conference in Boston," he said smoothly. "She impressed me with her honesty." The crowd laughed softly, and Maya's pulse thudded in her ears. Honesty. The one thing he had hired her for, and the only thing she could not fake. As the night went on, Ethan maintained the perfect facade, charming, untouchable, immaculate. But once the photographers drifted away, Maya caught a glimpse of something else in his eyes, a faint weariness, as if the weight of pretense was heavier than anyone knew. Later, back at the penthouse, she slipped out of her gown and placed it carefully on the hanger. When she turned, Ethan was standing at the doorway, still in his tuxedo, tie undone, watching her silently. "You did well tonight," he said finally. The board was pleased. "It felt strange," she admitted, "pretending to be someone I am not. In Fallen Troubles of the Dust Cannibal While." He looked at her for a long moment. "You would be surprised how many people in my world have been pretending for years." Maya said nothing. When he turned away, she noticed his reflection in the glass-sharp suit, tired eyes, a man made of walls, and she wondered if beneath all his rules and contracts, there was someone still waiting to be real. Morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, flooding the penthouse with gold. Maya Brooks stood before the mirror in a pale ivory dress, her reflection half-recognizable. The makeup artist had finished, and the stylist stepped back, admiring his work. "Perfect," he said. "You look like someone who has always belonged here." "In Hafton of Piest, in grains have met her friends," Maya smiled faintly. That is exactly the problem, she thought. Downstairs, Ethan Cole waited by the door, phone in hand, tie perfectly knotted. The black car was already waiting at the curb to take them to the Cole Foundation Charity Gala, their first true test before the world. When she appeared at the top of the stairs, he looked up, his breath catching almost imperceptibly. He quickly hid it behind his usual composure. "Are you ready?" "As I will ever be," she replied. The ride to the event was quiet, except for the sound of rain starting to tap against the glass. The city outside blurred into streaks of light and color. Ethan scrolled through his phone, but Maya noticed how tightly he held it, as if it were armor. "Do you ever get tired of all this?" she asked softly. "The pretending, the pressure, the cameras?" He paused before answering. "You do not get to be tired when you are responsible for everything." Maya turned to the window again. "Maybe that is the loneliest kind of success." Ethan said nothing, but his reflection in the glass shifted, as if her words had found a crack. At the gala, the flash of cameras returned, blinding and relentless. Ethan placed his hand on hers as they stepped out of the car. "Just smile," he murmured, his voice low. They entered the ballroom, where chandeliers glowed like liquid gold. Reporters lined the velvet ropes. The crowd turned as the couple appeared: Ethan Cole, the untouchable CEO, and the mysterious new wife no one had ever heard of. As they mingled, Maya moved carefully, her smile polite but genuine. She greeted board members, investors, journalists, each one assessing her with quick, practiced eyes. Ethan stayed close, answering questions with charm that looked effortless. Then a reporter, emboldened by wine and gossip, asked loudly, "Mrs. Cole, some people say your marriage was arranged to repair the company's image. What do you say to that?" A hush rippled across the room. Ethan's jaw tightened, but Maya stepped forward before he could speak. "I would say people can believe what they want," she said calmly. "But truth is not something you can buy. No matter how much money you have, it shows itself eventually." The room stayed silent for a beat before the crowd erupted into polite laughter and applause. Ethan's eyes softened just a flicker, but real. Later that night, as the party ended, he found her on the terrace alone, the city glittering below. Her shoes were off, her hair loose, rain misting around her. "You handled that well," he said quietly. Maya smiled without looking at him. "It was not in the contract, but honesty comes naturally to me. It's fils of the posting is the day size of they braid down in my citadel round." He chuckled under his breath. "That might be dangerous in my world." She turned to him, her eyes steady. "Maybe your world needs a little danger." For the first time since she had met him, Ethan did not have an answer. He only watched her as the rain began to fall harder, her dress dampening at the edges, and something unspoken passed between them, something neither contract nor camera could capture. Back in the car, driving through the wet city streets, Ethan looked at her reflection in the window. For the first time, the thought came quietly, almost against his will. Maybe this arrangement was not as simple as I thought. The following week moved in flashes of headlines and endless meetings. The charity gala had been a public success, and Ethan Cole's company stock quietly climbed. But inside the penthouse, the air felt different, warmer, more human. For the first time, Ethan did not spend every evening locked away in his study. He and Maya sometimes shared quiet dinners, their conversation no longer limited to schedules and image. One night, as thunder rolled softly over the skyline, Maya found him sitting alone on the balcony. The storm wind tugged at his tie, and a half-finished glass of scotch glimmered beside him. He looked less like a billionaire and more like a man caught between choices. "You should not be out here," she said gently. "It is cold." He smiled faintly without looking at her. "You sound like someone who actually cares." "Maybe I do," she replied, stepping beside him. Even if it was not part of the deal, Ethan's gaze drifted toward the city below. "My father built this company from nothing. He taught me to win, not to feel. When he died, everyone expected me to carry that legacy perfectly. I became exactly what they wanted, a machine." He exhaled, the sound quiet but heavy. "And sometimes I wonder if I even know how to be anything else." Maya's voice softened. "Machines cannot stand on balconies in the rain." That made him laugh quietly. For a long moment, neither spoke. The storm blurred the city into streaks of silver and gold. Then, without thinking, Ethan took off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. She looked up, startled. "You did not have to." "I know," he said. "But I wanted to." They stood there, close enough to hear each other's breathing. For the first time since the day she signed the contract, Maya felt something that was not fear or obligation. It was simple, human warmth. The next morning she woke early, finding him already in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, coffee steaming in his hand. The sight made her pause at the doorway. "You know," she said, smiling, "I did not think CEOs made their own coffee." "I do not," he said, handing her a mug. "But you look like you needed it." Their laughter filled the quiet apartment, echoing off the marble and glass that once felt so cold. That afternoon, as they prepared for another public appearance, Ethan stopped her by the mirror. "You do not have to pretend so hard anymore," he said. "You are doing fine just being yourself." Maya met his eyes in the reflection. "I am not sure who that is anymore." He hesitated before answering. "Maybe you are the only person here who actually knows how to be real." At the event that night, something in their acts shifted. The way he looked at her no longer seemed rehearsed. When photographers shouted for one more picture, he brushed a stray strand of hair from her face without thinking. She felt it, the pause, the heartbeat too long to be performance. When they returned home, Maya placed the silver ring on the nightstand, tracing the simple band with her finger. It had started as a prop, but now it felt like something more. Ethan paused at the doorway, watching her. "We are supposed to be careful," he said quietly. "I know," she whispered. "But maybe we stopped pretending a while ago." He did not reply. He only turned off the light, his shadow lingering in the doorway for a moment longer than usual, as the unspoken truth between them grew stronger than any contract. The weeks that followed moved like a quiet storm, slow, steady, inevitable. Ethan Cole and Maya Brooks continued their public appearances, each event blurring the line between performance and truth. Somewhere between the staged smiles and whispered interviews, something real had begun to grow. It was late one evening when the moment finally broke through. Maya was in the study, sorting through documents for an upcoming press conference. She wore one of Ethan's oversized shirts, sleeves rolled up, hair loose. Ethan entered silently, pausing at the doorway. For a man who lived by control, the sight of her surrounded by papers, laughing softly to herself, felt like sunlight breaking through glass. "You are working too late," he said. "So are you," she replied without looking up. "I am learning from the best." He crossed the room, stopping beside her. "You do not have to do this. You are not part of the company." She looked at him, eyes calm. "Maybe not on paper, but I care about what your company stands for. If it matters to you, it matters to me." For a second, he said nothing. Then his voice lowered, softer than she had ever heard. "You make me forget this was supposed to be fake. As 7, the way saddle willow brise." The words hung in the air, heavier than any contract. Maya's heart stuttered. She wanted to say something, anything, but instead she whispered, "Then maybe it does not have to be." Before either could speak again, his phone buzzed. The sound broke the moment. He looked down, reading the message, his face tightening. "What is it?" she asked. "A board member leaked the contract," he said slowly. "Someone knows everything." Maya froze. "Everything?" "Yes. The dates, the payment terms, everything. It will be public by morning." Her stomach dropped. The story would destroy them both. For him, it meant scandal and betrayal. For her, it meant humiliation. "What do we do?" she whispered. Ethan rubbed his temples, pacing the room. "Damage control. My PR team will deny it. We can claim it was a forged document, But once it hits the media, the truth will spread faster than I can stop it. Maya stood there, trembling. Then it is over. He turned sharply. No, I will fix it. You cannot fix a lie with another lie, she said, voice breaking. Maybe this is what it takes to show the world who you really are. He stared at her, silent. For the first time, she saw fear behind his confidence, the fear of losing everything he had built on image. That night, she could not sleep. The city outside pulsed with red and gold lights, but inside the penthouse, everything felt fragile, like glass waiting to shatter. She walked to the balcony, the cool air biting her skin. Below, photographers already gathered, waiting for a story to explode. Ethan joined her quietly. His eyes were tired, but his voice was calm. You should not blame yourself for this. I am not, she said softly. But I think the world deserves the truth, even if it hurts. He looked at her, then out at the skyline that reflected his empire back at him. You might be right, he said, but the truth has a cost. Maya turned to him, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. So does pretending. This rioted, the wind carried her words into the night. For the first time, Ethan did not have an answer. And for the first time, the man who had everything realized he might lose the only thing that had ever made him feel alive. The next morning came like a storm. News alerts flashed across every screen. Fake marriage scandal rocks. Cole media empire. Photos from their wedding appeared beside leaked contract pages, bold headlines accusing Ethan Cole of orchestrating a sham marriage to save his company's image. The city buzzed with judgment. Inside the penthouse, the quiet felt deafening. Maya Brooks sat at the edge of the sofa, phone trembling in her hand. Her name was everywhere. Strangers dissected her life, her motives, her worth. She scrolled through cruel comments until her vision blurred. Ethan stood by the window, hands clasped behind his back, watching the chaos unfold below. His phone had not stopped ringing, board members, lawyers, investors all demanding a response. But his silence was deliberate. For once, the man who always had a plan did not know what to say. They think I used you, he said finally, voice low. Maya looked up, eyes red. Didn't you? The question landed like a blade. Ethan turned toward her, his expression fractured. It started that way, he admitted. But I did not plan for this. For you. Is great man on sharp dots. Intentions do not change consequences, she said. You built your whole life on image, Ethan, and now that image is crushing both of us. He stepped closer. Let me fix it. Her laugh was soft, bitter. You cannot fix what was never real. He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. The ring he had given her glinted faintly in the morning light, mocking the promise it had never truly held. Maya grabbed her coat and bag, heart pounding. I need air, she said. Maya, do not follow me. The elevator doors closed before he could move. Outside, the world was colder than she remembered. Photographers shouted her name as flashes erupted. She pushed through the crowd, rain mixing with tears. By the time she reached the corner cafe, her hands were shaking. She ordered coffee and sat by the window, staring blankly at the city. For months, she had been pretending first for survival, then for love. Now there was nothing left to pretend for. Hours later, Ethan's statement hit the media. It was not what anyone expected. He stood before reporters. No teleprompter, no prepared lines, just the man himself. I will not deny the contract, he said, his voice steady. But the truth is more complicated. What began as an arrangement became something neither of us expected. I failed her by treating honesty as a transaction. And for that, I take full responsibility. The room fell silent. Cameras clicked. Across town, Maya watched the broadcast on a cafe television. The sound of his voice made her chest tighten. There was no defense, no corporate spin. Just truth. For the first time, Ethan Cole sounded human. That night, she returned to her small apartment, empty now except for a photo of her mother and the silver necklace she always wore. She sat by the window and whispered to herself, he told the truth. The next morning, her phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. I have cleared your name. You owe me nothing. But if you ever want to talk, I will be at the hospital. Spalancy, Wergan sever body. Maya hesitated, then looked at the hospital bracelet still in her drawer. The one she had kept from her mother's final days. She closed her eyes. Maybe it was time to stop running from the very things she had taught him honesty. And maybe, Somewhere between ruin and redemption, there was still a chance for something real. When Maya Brooks arrived at the hospital the next morning, the sky was still gray from the storm. The lobby smelled faintly of antiseptic and coffee. Her steps echoed against the marble floor as she followed the familiar hallway, the same one where she used to wait for her mother's treatments, clutching unpaid bills and borrowed hope. And there, sitting alone beside the donation wing plaque, was Ethan Cole. No suit today, just a plain shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, eyes tired but calm. For the first time, he looked like a man, not a headline. She hesitated, then spoke quietly. "You kept your word." He looked up. "You taught me how." Maya's throat tightened. "The world is still tearing you apart out there." Ethan nodded. "Let them. They can destroy my reputation, but they cannot rewrite the truth." He gestured toward the sign above him. Cole Foundation, Community Health Program Expansion. Freshly installed that morning. Her name, etched beside his, gleamed softly in silver. In partnership with the Brooks Initiative. Maya blinked, stunned. "You used my mother's name?" "I used your honesty," he said. "This was supposed to be another PR campaign, but after everything, it felt wrong. You once said truth has a cost. I finally understand that it is worth paying." Tears welled in her eyes. "Why would you do this? After everything that happened?" Ethan took a deep breath. "Because it was never about the contract anymore. I do not care what the board thinks, or what the press prints. You changed the way I see success. I built an empire on image, but you taught me what it means to build something real." For a long moment, neither spoke. The sound of rain against the glass filled the silence. Maya finally whispered, "You could have disappeared. You could have blamed me and moved on." "I almost did," he admitted, "until I realized that losing you would be worse than losing everything else." Her voice trembled. "Ethan, you do not owe me redemption." He shook his head. "Maybe not, but I owe you truth." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the same simple silver ring that had once been just a prop. The metal caught the light as he held it between them. "This ring was meant for cameras," he said, "but it became something else. I do not want to keep pretending that it means nothing." Maya looked at him, unsure whether to cry or smile. "What are you saying?" "Is last city and other action, that I want to start over," he said. "No contracts, no lies. Just two people who got lost and found each other in the wrong story." Her eyes glistened as she took the ring from his hand. For a long time, she said nothing. Then, softly, she placed it back into his palm. "Not yet," she said. "If this is going to be real, it needs to grow like truth, slow, steady, and unforced." Ethan nodded, a small smile breaking through the weariness. "Then I will wait." As she turned to leave, the lights of the hospital hallway reflected across the plaque with their names. Two worlds, one built on power, one on sincerity, now bound by something far stronger than any contract. Outside, the storm had finally stopped. The city glistened under new sunlight, and for the first time in months, both Ethan and Maya could breathe as themselves, free, unmasked, and real. A full year passed before Maya Brooks returned to that same hospital corridor. The plaque bearing her name beside Ethan Cole's still shone beneath the soft lights, but the air felt different now. Peaceful, grounded, alive. The city had long moved past the scandal. Cole Media had rebuilt itself, not with image campaigns, but with programs that actually help people. Ethan's reputation had changed from the cold CEO to the man who made honesty profitable. Outside the hospital, spring had returned. Street vendors filled the sidewalks again, and the air smelled of coffee and rain. Maya stood beneath the awning, holding a small folder stamped with the logo of the Brooks Foundation, the charity she had built with the funds Ethan once gave her to fix his image. She had used that money to create something her mother would have been proud of: scholarships, health grants, and art therapy programs for families in need. What had started as a lie had become something beautifully real. She had not seen Ethan in 6 months. Their lives had drifted apart naturally, each rebuilding something broken in their own way. She told herself that was enough, that truth did not always need romance to stay meaningful. Then, one evening, as she was closing the foundation office, the lights flickered and the front door opened. Ethan stood there, holding a small bouquet of white lilies, the same kind from her mother's hospital room. He looked different now, softer, lighter. The weight of perfection had finally lifted from his shoulders. I heard the foundation is expanding to 3 new cities, he said. She smiled. Yes. It turns out honesty travels faster than scandal. He laughed quietly, then took a step closer. Maya, I have been thinking about what you said that day about growing slowly, about letting truth take root. She looked up at him. And, and I realized it already has. He reached into his pocket once more. The silver ring. Not polished, not new, still carrying the faint scratches from the life they had both lived through. This ring used to represent everything fake about my world, he said, but it became the reminder of the one person who taught me what real means. I am not asking for another deal or another image. I am asking for a beginning. Maya stared at him, heart pounding. For the first time, there was no contract between them, no obligation, no cameras. Just a man and a woman standing in the quiet after a long storm. She took a slow breath and whispered, "Then this time, let it be real." Ethan smiled, slipping the ring onto her finger once more, steady, deliberate, honest. Outside, the city lights shimmered across the windows, as if blessing the moment. The noise of traffic softened beneath the hum of a new beginning. Months later, their wedding was small, just close friends, foundation volunteers, and the hospital staff who had witnessed their journey. No reporters, no headlines, no spectacle. When the officiant asked if they promised to choose truth over perfection, both answered yes without hesitation. As they stepped out into the evening air, confetti drifting around them like slow snow, Ethan whispered, "I married you once for the world. This time, I am marrying you for me." Maya smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "And this time," she said, "there is no need for cameras to prove it." The story that had begun as a transaction ended as a vow. What started as an illusion became a legacy proof that even in a world built on image, truth, and kindness could still win. And for Ethan Cole and Maya Brooks, love was no longer a contract. It was finally, irrevocably real,